So, yeah, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. How are you doing, guys? I really hope everyone is doing very good this morning. Well, I'm super excited to welcome everyone to this public lecture on hybrid feminism, a solution to gender debates. If you're just new here, if you're not a student of my class and start questioning what kind of class this is, don't worry about that. I'll tell you a little background regarding this fresh lecture. And actually, this is a course named Language, Gender, and Media for 7th semester students at the English Literature Department in Surakarta, where I myself act as a lecturer here. Since this is public lecture, I realized that the participants come from different backgrounds. Students from different universities, lecturers possibly, professionals from different corporates, and many more. So yeah, hello everyone, it's nice to meet you. Back then, I was talking to myself, what if I invite several fellows of mine to deliver the lecture in my classroom? And I think they will be very great. And I'm super lucky that 3 formidable, prominent ladies couldn't agree more with me and said yes for participating in this classroom. And voila, we have this public lecture. In total, we have 3 exciting course series, including this, that starts from today until next 2 weeks. Well, let's get back to business. Today, we'll be having a very fascinating topic called hybrid feminism that will be delivered by an excellent lady, a mom of one beautiful child, Kuliah, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, she is having her breakfast now with her grandma.
Nice. A friend that I'm always proud of and honor. She's the one and only Bu Indah Khairunnisah Marwan. Hello, Bu Indah. How is it going?
Good? Yeah, good. I'm waiting for the setting for my camera. Okay.
Sure. Take your time. Well, I think it's been a while though, not seeing you. I think the last time I met you in person was 4 years ago when we went in the same college in London, right?
Yep.
Did we meet in Indonesia?
No, I don't think so.
Right. And I'm very happy that finally I can meet you today on this very special occasion. I cannot express my happiness, but thanks for being here to give us some enlightenment this morning. So guys, before talking about hybrid feminism, I think it's important for us to start with having clear definition of what gender means. I still see many people are incapable to differentiate between sex and gender. And this is where the inequality in gender begins. To put it in simpler way, sex is related to something biological. Always remember this. Sex is always related to something biological, permanent, and cannot be interchangeable, and maybe taken for granted. For example, okay, we need to have a straightforward language in this term, okay? For example, penis in men and vagina in women. However, gender is more social, cultural features strongly associated with men and women. For example, men are perceived strong, rational, masculine, while women are perceived, I don't know, maybe weak, emotional, and feminine. Maybe ladies here can, ladies here can clarify that my talk later. So yeah, now you know clearly that sex and gender are very different. And long story short, okay, the incapability to differentiate between something biological and non-biological, which are sex and gender, could lead to social systems and structures that place people, mostly women, at a disadvantage. And this may lead to gender inequality, ending up with a gender bias. From this, many women might face forms of gender inequality, such as marginalization, stereotyping, violence, and many more. So women were then united to fight for equality in many aspects, including a more fair treatment in education, economy, politics, and many areas, until several Western feminist thoughts then emerged, including, we already covered this a couple of weeks ago, my class, liberal feminism, Marxist, socialist feminism, radical feminism, until postmodern and third wave feminism. I can say that Western feminism just inspired the emergence of women's movements in several Islamic countries, including Indonesia, our beautiful country that has a very strong patriarchal ideology, unfortunately. But it's not always easy. Those who oppose feminism, especially in Indonesia, always doubt whether the Western secular feminist ideologies can match with Islamic values. They often doubt that issue. Then there is Musawah. Okay, that Bu Indah will cover this in a more comprehensive way later. An international movement that fights for equality and justice in Muslim families, initiated by mostly modern, progressive Islamic women activists and scholars in Kuala Lumpur back then in 2009, if I'm not mistaken. And the most interesting part is that in order to solve gender equality issues, they will use at least 4 approaches. First one, theology, and then international convention, mainly on human rights, state constitution, and the reality for women itself. And the big question is then, is it a win-win solution for Islamic countries where they can marry secular feminism ideology with Islamic teachings? And can we apply hybrid feminism to solve practical issues or gender? Or is it only just a theory? Okay, and to discuss this in a more comprehensive way, I would like to invite Bu Indah Khairunnisah. I hope you're ready, Bu Indah, to cover this interesting topic. Bu Indah graduated from Universitas Indonesia, majoring Arabic language and culture in 2014. Then she pursued a master's at School of Oriental and African Studies, SOAS, University of London in 2017. After graduation, Bu Indah acted as a teaching assistant at the Department of Arabic Language and Culture, Universitas Indonesia, then being a program assistant at Aman, Indonesia. Well, without further ado, let me just invite Bu Indah to the main session. Bu Indah, time is yours. Please help yourself. You may explain in English, Bahasa, or maybe campur-campur. It's entirely up to you, Bu Indah. Take your time. I think you still mute your, yeah.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. Assalamualaikum everyone. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good morning. Selamat pagi. I'd like to say thank you to Mr. Widi for giving me the opportunity to speak about hybrid feminism. It was my research based on my thesis dissertation. So I developed my thesis dissertation into a research paper, and the topic that we're going to cover this morning was already presented in Asia Pacific Research International Conference, APRIS 2018 in Jakarta. So it was not published yet, but because Mr. Widi really wanted me to speak about it, so this one is open for public, and I want to deliver this topic for everyone, so everyone can know that there are another stream of feminism that is proposed by a scholar named Huma Ahmed Ghosh, which is the theory of hybrid feminism. And in this topic, I also, in this paper, I also tried to analyze this theory of hybrid feminism in the international movement named Musawa, and also in the national network of KUPI, which stands for Indonesian Women Ulama Network. Okay, without further ado, I'm just gonna read my introduction first. And Mr. Ridi, can you make me a co-host so I can screen sharing?
Oh yeah, sure. Wait a minute.
Okay. I would like to say hi to everyone who joined. So the ones with number 7 in front of their name is your student, right, Mr. Ridi?
How do you know that?
Because you say they are 7th semester students. Okay, yeah. Hi everyone. Right.
Yeah. I think you're ready to go.
All right. So this one, the lecture I will deliver probably in 20 minutes. If it's more than 20 minutes, Mr. Wildy, you can just remind me, so I'll stop, and we can have Q&A sessions and comments and reflections. And also after that, we can have a breakout sessions for your students, okay? Let me start with so I'm just going to use my PowerPoints from the conference that I presented, this one. Okay, my title was Analysis of Hybrid Feminism in the Case Study of Musawa. This is my email, so if anyone wants to continue with the discussion, you can just send me an email and I'd be happy to respond to your email. Okay. I will cover the introduction, the research methodology, and what is hybrid feminism, and what is Musawa, and its stated Musawa framework for action, and also Kongres Ulama Perempuan Indonesia to contextualize the Indonesian issue of child marriage. And also I finally analyze the challenges of Musawa as the international movement, and I will conclude with a summary and conclusion. Okay. Okay. There are some modern issues that are not discussed in Islamic scripture, as such Quran and Sunnah, the prophetic traditions. And therefore, the progressive Muslim scholars and activists, they tried to apply the concept of maslahah, which was proposed by Imam al-Ghazali. And this concept of maslahah, or public interest, becomes a significant concept in Muslim legal tradition. Not only just now, but it has happened since long time ago. But public interest or maslahah is a fluid concept within time and communities, so it can be different from Indonesian communities, Indonesians, Muslim women, and also probably Moroccan Muslim women. So the concept of maslahah is very contextualized for each Muslim woman according to Muslim progressives and Muslim progressives. Okay, so maslahah becomes the characteristic of hybrid feminism. Why do I say so? Because maslahah becomes the goal of achieving the gender equality, the justice that is aimed by Muslim women. How the concept of maslahah is defined is according to their communities, their organization, their region, or their countries. And hybrid feminism appeared as a movement, now as a movement in 2009 after the establishment of Musawa. But the theory, it comes from a journal, a paper from Huma Ahmed Ghosh, who critiqued the secular feminism and the Islamic feminism, who cannot work together and to work together in aiming the gender equality for Muslim women. So secular feminism is too secular for Muslim women, which is not applicable for them. And Islamic scriptures is too patriarchal and not addressing women properly, or not addressing women at all. So they, the theory of hybrid feminists try to combine the two streams to aiming the gender equality for Muslim women especially. Okay, my research questions was, how does Musawa as hybrid feminist movement challenge the present notions of gender relations, especially Musawa as a movement who work towards the gender equality within Islamic marriage, and Islamic marriage itself in terms of Musawa is very not heteronormative, because they don't define marriage as men and women marriage to each other. We will talk about it later. And what are the obstacles of Musawa as a movement of hybrid with hybrid approach? So based on a topic that I analyzed, which is child marriage, movement of Musawa used hybrid feminism. And the methodology that I used here is qualitative descriptive analysis with literature study and interview-based data. I interviewed Zaina Anwar as co-founder of Musawa in 2017 as part of my research. And also I met with Ziba Mir Husseini, who is also a scholar and activist in Musawa. She also a professor in SOAS, so I could meet her, and I could meet Zaina together in London at that time. Okay, hybrid feminism is a state in which secular, Islamic, and other possible discourses collaborate for a betterment of women. It's a definition according to the proposed by Huma Ahmed Ghosh in 2008, and later in 2009, Musawa was established. So hybrid feminism doesn't necessarily only cater the need of secular feminism or Islamic feminism. It is according to the communities of women that are using the theory of hybrid feminism. If it's indigenous women, indigenous Islamic women, for example, Minangnis women who are very deep-rooted in Islamic traditions, but they also want to bring improvement to their community, they can probably use other possible discourses as such the status of their ethnic documents or principles. They can use that. So hybrid feminism can be very specific, which is why, according to Huma Ahmed Ghosh, it's very flexible and it's very applicable for especially women from non-white background. So it can be Black, it can be brown, Muslim women, it can be everyone using this theory of hybrid feminism, according to Huma Ahmed Ghosh, because it caters the needs of arguments to support the betterment of women. Okay, according to Huma Ahmed Ghosh, there are 2 steps to apply hybrid feminism. So according to her, these ones, the steps are applicable. So hybrid feminism can be used in practical ways. 2 steps. There are first theorizing by looking at the factual reality. So there's no need to look at the secular status or Islamic status first, but we need to look back in ourselves, what happens to us, what is the problem with our community, what is faced by Muslim women of Indonesia, or probably what is the problem of child marriage in Indonesia. So It can be rooted from the communities itself, to looking back to reflect what is the problem and try to theorize them, put them into sentences, and try to look at the applicable approach and practicing them. So we look at the secular instruments like human rights convention, Islamic scriptures like the Quran verses, or the prophetic hadith, or fatwas or fatwa, and we can try to use them to work for the betterment of women as in advocacy and else. Okay. Musawa was established in 2009 in the initiation of Sisters in Islam. So Sisters in Islam is basically national movement, national organization concerns about women equality, Muslim women equality in Malaysia. So Ms. Zaina Anwar that I met is actually also the co-founder of Sisters in Islam, and she co-founded Musawa as well. So it's in the community of Muslim women activists, it's actually a kind of network. So it doesn't necessarily an organization, but it can be individuals who work with the same principles, and they connect with each other through Musawa, Sisters in Islam, and in Indonesia through KUPI. Okay, these individuals, progressive Muslim women, they share the same belief that equality and justice in the Muslim family is possible and necessary. So this one is very international. We come from different regions: South Africa, Northern Africa, the UK, and then Europe, and then Iran, Malaysia. What else? Pakistan, Iran, Afghanistan, and else. So it's very international, and we work with the same stated of Musawa framework for actions, which was discussed and constructed within the conference in 2009. It was used as their instruments to work and to build the knowledge and to assemble support. So they basically the knowledge building and advocacy working. Okay, what is Musawa framework for actions and what is in the stated? So I'm just gonna explain the main principle here. The main principle of Musawa, they work to attempt and continue to reshape the contemporary concept of gender relations with a holistic approach. And by saying the contemporary concept of gender relations, it means they also re-examine the concept of gender relation within marriage in the traditional way, in the classical legal Sharia, and also in the fiqh of marriage, and they try to redefine the marriage in a contemporary way. With a holistic approach means that they use the theory of hybrid feminism. So we will see later here in a specific case, such child marriage is they explain briefly in their publication that they are against child marriage because it's against the Human Rights Convention. And also they re-examined the prophetic hadith about the marriage of Aisha to the prophet, and they argued that there are no specific explanation about how old Aisha, and in different arguments there are no same number about how was Aisha when married to the Prophet. And also in the modern context, in the Sharia, in the fiqh of marriage, it was in the classical fiqh, it was only mentioned that the requirement to get married is one to get baligh. I'm probably sure that you all know what is baligh, and the term baligh in the 21st century is totally different from the term baligh for the classical fiqh definition, and that's why, according to them, child marriage is bring mudarat to child marriage brings mudarat to the children, and also it also talks about the effect on in the perspective of health and finance about the impact of child marriage. So the term of holistic approach, so they use various perspectives to support their arguments in pursuing gender equality for women. Okay, let's talk about Kongres Ulama Perempuan Indonesia. This one is Indonesian context, because I will talk about it, about how KUPI is related to Musawa and why I chose to see through KUPI about the same topic of child marriage. So KUPI, Kongres Ulama Perempuan Indonesia, the Congress itself was held in 25th to 27 April 2017 in Cirebon, which is just a few months before I wrote my dissertation. And to be honest, the documents that I could see at that time is very limited, and I had to ask people from inside the KUPI to for their documents to be able to see what they're saying, because I was not there. But by meeting with Zaina Anwar in 2017, it really helped me to connect with people inside KUPI, because she was there, she was in Kongres Ulama Perempuan Indonesia, and she gave me an overview about what is Kongres Ulama Perempuan Indonesia. Okay, KUPI itself was hosted by Alimat. Alimat is a group affiliated with Musawa. Alimat itself is also a network of Muslim women progressives in Indonesia. So they are affiliated with Musawa. So Alimat is the Indonesian group for Musawa principle. And the participants in this Congress engage in a critical dialogue using the guidance of the Quran and their interpretation, mainly we know as ijtihad, and hadith, previous ulama's opinion, and the state constitution. So from this sentence, we already know that they use different approach to talk about the topics that they were discussing. For such, guidance of the Quran, hadith, previous ulama's opinion or fatwa, and the state constitution, which is quite regarded as secular instruments. And the outcome from the Congress, they issued a fatwa. This women ulama issued the fatwa stating that underage marriage is harmful, and it brings harms not only for the children, but also the children from the underage marriage. And they also talk about the fact that underage marriage is resulted from poverty, especially in areas like northern Indonesia, Kalimantan, Sulawesi, Nusa Tenggara Timur. And they also requested to abolish it by raising the minimum age of marriage for women from 16 years old to 18 years old at that time. So they worked from 2017 as a KUPI, as a network, with Alimat, which is Alimat also worked with the advocacy to raise the minimum age of marriage in our marriage law, which was 16 years old. And finally, in 2019, the law finally raised the minimum age of marriage from 16 to 19 years old. So it's the first step that the law is finally remandment, but they also work to build knowledge for other women ulama or just ulama across Indonesia to put da'wah about the harm of underage marriage up until now. Okay, what I analyzed about the challenges of Musawa, as I only analyzed Musawa because it's the umbrella of the network of Muslim women organizations who work towards the gender equality. And I see that in their internal challenges, they are struggling to expand its affiliation to local bureaucracy, not to local organizations like Alimat, but to local bureaucracy. They need to put their progressive Muslim women in the local communities into the bureaucracy to be in the system. So the problem with the law, reamendment of the law, and also the knowledge building, the advocacy can be easier. It was my opinion. And its form of reasoning or ijtihad as a misunderstanding and inconsistent is very much critiqued by the opposition of progressive Muslims. And they need to work with their reasoning or ijtihad to be consistent and to be easily understood by common civil society like me, like us. And the external challenges was to see that, to work that the secular feminists can work within also the framework of religion to convince them that it can be achieved, the equality for women in the family is achievable with also within the framework of religion. And the last one is, I say, the Islamists are not a proponent of Musawa. We totally understand that in the stream of feminism, there are people who dislike the ideology, the principles, and not only just even in the religious stream of feminism, like Islamic feminism, within the Islamic communities, there are also tensions to see what is Islamic feminism, and towards their work, there are also dislikes and disagreements. So those are the challenges. And okay, I will conclude with this. So I forgot to mention about maslaha in my presentation. So I will just say it here. Maslaha is worked by using the secular and religious instruments by Musawa to redefine what is the best for Muslim women. So according to Nur Rafia, who is I very much adore, she said that maslaha should not only in the perspective of men, but also in the perspective of women. So maslaha should be experienced to women as well, not only for men. So if maslaha was defined by a group of men, then maslaha is not aimed for the betterment for women. That's why maslaha should be in both perspective of men and women. So men and women can define maslaha. especially in the modern times like this. In Musawa, maslaha appears in obvious manner, acting as a major factor to evaluate the current problems in the context. In my analysis, especially in child marriage. So maslaha can be seen from the perspective of health, finance, legal, religious, and human rights. These two stages in hybrid feminism application of theorizing and practicing is completed during the process. So there are publications from Musawa. One of them is a book written by those progressive Muslims who work in Musawa. The title is Men in Charge, the analysis of Wilayah and Kiwama, which are two concepts that is very important in redefining the classical notions of marriage, Islamic marriage. And in those books and in those publications, they also use the reality of Muslim women. They work in the region in Indonesia. We can see that there are data that they use and the qualitative explanation about it from inside the book, one of which we can see from outside the organization. And also the obstacles from within and outside of the movement appears to be inevitable, and as a movement, they can only just focus on their aim and not always listen to the critiques that will destruct the work that they have worked. And there is still a need of evolving for the organization as hybrid feminism that tend to show a positive course towards gender equality and justice struggle. So hybrid feminism gives a positive notions, as we can see from the result of advocacy of Alimat and Kupi to raise the minimum age of marriage. But I also admit that it worked as a collaborative work from other CSOs, Muslim women's organizations that resulted in the raise of minimum age of marriage. But the use of hybrid feminism is in this topic is particularly is very applicable and positive. Okay, this is the bibliography that I used in my research paper. Okay, is it here? Yeah, the book that I mentioned about their work in redefining Islamic marriage is called here, Men in Charge, Rethinking Authority in Muslim Legal Tradition. So there are several authors who write a chapter, and they use their background, academic background and activism background to redefine the classical notion of Islamic marriage. And it's a very interesting book if you want to see how Musawa work as a collective movement of progressive individuals. Okay, if anyone interested in reading the paper of hybrid feminism, the paper title is Dilemmas of Islamic and Secular Feminists and Feminism by Huma Ahmed Ghosh. And also this one from Margot Badran is also a critique to secular and Islamic feminism. But in this case, she only says that we need a movement that work with secular and Islamic approach in aiming the gender equality, but she doesn't propose exclusively another stream of hybrid feminism like Huma Ahmed Ghosh, but she only critiques it and try to propose the movement. So Margot Badran and Huma Ahmed Ghosh, I thought, was the basic of how the international movements such as Musawa appeared in the Muslim women communities. Okay. If anyone liked further discussion of the topic, please kindly contact me through indahmarwan@gmail.com, or mostly nowadays people use social media, so my social media is Indah Marwan, Twitter and Instagram. So if anyone wants to talk about it, I'm happy to discuss about it. Okay, is it 20 minutes, Mr. Wildy?
Yes, 20 minutes.
Okay, right, on time.
More couple of minutes. So, are you done?
Yeah.
All right, so thank you, Bu Indah. What a beautiful presentation. And I think Bu Indah just explained several issues in terms of hybrid feminism. But I think that the state of hybrid here is then the combination of the secular and Islamic and possibly other possible resources to solve gender issues, mainly in Muslim families, where patriarchy is very dominant, I think. Then there is Musawa here, which share the same belief that equality and justice in the Muslim family is possible and necessary. One of the approaches, hybrid feminism, in bringing the gender issue is based on Quran, Hadith, ulama's opinion, or Jumhur ulama, and state constitution, where we never see this approach in any Western feminism thoughts. Well, actually, now we want to move on to Q&A session. I would like to open 2 sessions for question and answers. If you want to ask something, please turn on your camera, or maybe not. Say your name, which institution are you from, and mention your question in a concise way. Before that, I would like to say hello to the friends of mine coming from different backgrounds. From Bliwayan, Dara. He is a lecturer at Universitas Negeri Jakarta. Are you not teaching now, Bliwayan? Bliwayan will be very happy if you can say something, possibly feminism in the perspective of different religion, especially in Hinduism, maybe in your religion. And we have Mbak Nada as well. She's in Germany, if I'm not mistaken, and it's 3 a.m. in the morning. Good morning, Mbak Nada. Thank you very much for joining us. And we have Pak Rustam Nur Afendi, a lecturer of our university. And maybe you can say something, Pak Rustam, possibly regarding feminism in the, from the perspective of male, maybe. Okay. And
feminism doesn't always have to be women.
Okay, yes. Alright, thank you very much. Ya, teman-teman, kalau misalkan ada yang mau bertanya, silakan bertanya.
Ada yang mau refleksi, komen, atau sharing experience tentang feminism or other things that related to the topic, silakan, kita nggak terpaku hanya untuk pertanyaan aja.
And you may mention your question in bahasa, it's okay too. In English, campur-campur, it's entirely up to you, actually. From 7th semester, do you have any questions? Please go ahead if you have any question. Okay, or maybe you can type your question on the chat column so that we can read it. If you want, if you don't want to ask in person, maybe. Okay, Bu Indah, maybe to start, or maybe to wait for other participants to ask question. I was thinking this way. if the approach from hybrid feminism based on Quran, Hadith, and ulama opinion, does it open more rooms to reinterpret several Quranic verses to be more contextual in today's condition and to be more gender friendly?
Okay, Mr. Riley, I'm very much lost. Can you repeat that question, please?
Okay.
My internet is unstable, sorry.
Okay, it's okay. One of the approaches of hybrid feminism based on the Quran, Hadith, and ulama opinion, right? So we know that several verses interpretation sound a bit patriarchal, right?
And misogynist.
Yeah.
And misogynist.
Yeah, that's misogynist. So do you think that this way can open more rooms to reinterpret several Quranic verses to be more contextual and gender friendly?
Yep. So this Muslim women progressive, they also work toward the interpretation that is not necessarily women friendly, but aiming at the peace and justice and equalities for all human beings, not necessarily positive for men, but also for women and other gender. And also in the perspective of Muslim women progressives, they think that the interpretation should be contextualized based on the present experience and communities and situations. So the methodology that is used by this progressive Muslims, not necessarily women progressives, they use the methodology of hermeneutics. They read the Quran and reflect their experience before they try to interpret or try to understand the meaning of the verses. For example, the verses that usually used as the base to hit the wives from the husbands. So these classical interpretations say that it is permissible for husbands to hit their wives if they're not following the husband's request or order, especially in the sexual request. This verse of the Quranic verse of 434 is reinterpreted in many ways by these Muslim progressive women by redefining the word daraba in Arabic, the word daraba in the more contextualized way. What is the background when this verse was revealed, and how is it can be understood in present days? Is it okay for men to hit women in 21st century, especially if it's someone who they're sleeping with, they live with, they love each other? Is it okay to hit them, even though the word daraba meaning in dictionaries and classical interpretation say hit, but they can use the interpretation in the present days as to separate your bed from your wife for a couple of days. And there are other kind of interpretations. And also what is radical, in my opinion, is that there is the transliteration and interpretation of the Quran from a Muslim woman. Her name is Layla. I forget her name. Layla. So she works toward the interpretation of the Quran as a whole. So it's not only English translation, but it's also English translation in the perspective of women. She passed away a year ago. And the book is used also by the progressive Muslim women to re-examine the concept or the issues that they are facing in their communities.
Right. Thank you very much, Indah. Yeah, I think I couldn't agree more with you that the Quran is one of our mu'jizah, right? That we can bring anytime. And I think it should be contextual, yeah, in the current modern era as well. And if we need to reinterpret, maybe it will be needed reinterpretation to be more contextual. Oke, teman-teman lain ada yang ingin bertanya, silakan. Silakan bisa melalui kolom chat ataupun menanyakan langsung.
Boleh tanya sama teman Mas Wildi nggak sih? Kalau berkenan beli wayan.
Beli wayan aktif nggak nih? Beli wayan, are you here? Beli wayan?
Masih ada nggak? Karena penasaran ya, pengen tahu perspektif feminisme di komunitas Hindu itu seperti apa. Kemudian kalau komunitas Kristen, penganut Kristiani itu mostly menggunakan metodologi yang sama dalam mereinterpretasi ayat-ayat religiusnya dengan metodologi hermeneutics. Itu banyak digunakan oleh German scholars yang membaca ulang Bible, dan kalau di dalam studi Islam modern, pemikiran Islam modern itu ada namanya Profesor Fazlur Rahman. Dia mengembangkan teori hermeneutics yang applicable untuk Muslim communities. Nah, mostly nggak jauh berbeda hermeneutics-nya Islam menurut Fazlur Rahman dengan hermeneutics yang dipakai sama German scholars yang mencoba mereinterpretasi Bible. Makanya kalau pengen tahu aja kalau ada perspektif lain dari agama lain, mungkin kita bisa dengar.
And we mentioned Aminah Wadud as a modern progressive.
Okay, I would like to talk about Miss Aminah Wadud. So Dr. Aminah Wadud once in her first book, Quran and Women, was refused to be called feminist. But later on, in her later book, in the next book, Gender Jihad, she claims that she takes back the label of feminist. I'm a feminist. She said up until now she's a feminist. So we can label ourselves anything. We can agree to any ideologies, and we can grow or learn and unlearn about anything. Jadi dulu saya juga anti dengan label feminist sampai akhirnya 2017 bertemu Kupi, baru saya merasa oh yeah, we can work toward the gender equality within our faith within Islam. So it's applicable for me to be a feminist as a Muslim woman. Gitu. Kalau ngomongin Aminah Wadud, it's very inspiring.
Yeah. Inspiring, yet controversial.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's working on a research about queerness in Indonesia in UIN Yogyakarta, Mas Wildi.
I think a couple of years ago, he experienced objections from several scholars when she wanted to come to Indonesia, especially in Yogyakarta. Okay,
there are questions in the chat box.
Okay, yeah, there are two questions from the chat box. You want to read yourself or?
Yeah, I will read it to the audience. It's from Lucy Laksita Al-Fathu. Thank you, Kak Indah and Marwan, for the nice presentation. I'm Lucy Laksita Al-Fathu. Sorry if I pronounce it wrong. One of Mr. Wilder's students. I do interesting to ask something. Is there any other issues that still in pro and contrast in the eye of Islamic feminism and secular feminism other than just grooming? Okay, there are a lot of issues that is growing within the communities of Muslim women. and also from the perspective of Islamic and secular feminism. The latest one in the context of Indonesian Muslim women, we talk about women support women. What is behind the hashtag women support women? Who women that we should be supported, and how can we support women as women? And in the international context, I think we are eager, we are thrilled, we are angered to see what happens in Afghanistan, especially with women there, what happened to them, what they face now with Taliban in the government. So the international women movement, especially women movement, now they work in the knowledge building, advocacy, and social activism to critique the Taliban government, and also help them to organize refugee system for Muslim women, especially the ones with dreams. Like I saw 11 girls who are in the robotic teams, and they flew a few days after the Taliban take over Kabul to the US, because the ones who helped them is their coach in the robotic team, which is the US woman. So I think the issues that we're facing now is very related to the present problems, present news, what happened to us in the reality, and it's very community and state-based. Jadi kalau misalkan teman-teman melihat sosial media organisasi perempuan di Indonesia, mungkin sekarang akan lagi membahas kaitannya perempuan dengan isu pemanasan global, atau bagaimana perempuan bisa turut serta aktif menjaga kelestarian lingkungan. Jadi it doesn't always have to be about ourselves. So it can be about our relations to other human beings or other created beings, dengan alam, terus juga dengan sesama manusia lain. It doesn't necessarily to be other Muslim communities. Jadi it's very fluid, and each organizations, each civil society has their own focus, and they work with the government, with other communities, local communities, to achieve the main goal of gender equality, gender justice, and gender doesn't have to be women. Okay, other minorities kayak transgender yang belum punya KTP, kayak gitu sih. Okay, next ada pertanyaan dari Kamila Yasmin. Hello, Mrs. Indah. Hi, Kamila. Thank you for the clear presentation in the feminist community. I often hear that being a feminist means supporting LGBT. However, our religion is against it. I find it difficult to explain to friends how I'm not supporting someone being gay, but I respect them. What do you think about it? Thank you very much. Okay, this is something very sensitive. Kadang di Indonesia seseorang yang support LGBT itu kemudian dianggap liberal, sekular, bahkan kadang-kadang dianggap kafir gitu ya. Padahal kalau kita lihat, kalau menurutku sendiri ya, sebagai seorang yang masih belajar dan learn and unlearning, supporting LGBT doesn't mean that we are against our own religious teaching, against our faith. There are different interpretations about Islam responding LGBT. Ada buku-buku tentang Islam memandang LGBT kayak Professor Scott Kugel. He talked about he re-examined the interpretation of the Quranic verse tentang kaum Lut. Jadi dia dalam bukunya itu Profesor Scott Kugel membaca kembali apa sih yang terjadi dengan kaum Lut. Apakah mereka benar-benar melakukan sodomi atau itu adalah sense of self-defense. Jadi ada penjelasannya panjang gitu dalam buku itu. Tapi ada short paper that summarize the book very well. Mungkin kalau teman-teman tertarik bisa cari. Saya nggak punya akses ke academic papers at the moment, tapi teman-teman bisa cari bukunya Scott Kugel atau paper mengenai Scott Kugel. Dia melihat LGBT dalam pandangan Islam berdasarkan Quranic verse itu. Jadi kalau merasa belum ingin memberi statement apakah saya akan support LGBT atau enggak, you can stay silent. Nggak perlu dijawab gitu. Kadang-kadang kita nggak perlu merespon hal-hal yang akan membuat diri kita burn out, capek gitu. Kalau dibilang kamu support LGBT ya gitu. Bilang aja I'm not so sure about it, masih belajar gitu. It's okay to say that we are still learning. I'm myself still learning up until now. Dari 2016 ketemu Islamic Feminism sampai sekarang itu masih belajar terus buku-buku Islamic Feminism, ikut klub buku, ikut discussion, ikut webinarnya Musawah. Jadi it's okay to say that we don't know, we don't have any stand in about it, kita nggak punya posisi apa-apa tentang itu. Atau kalau merasa udah yakin, ya kita akan bisa bilang dan percaya diri gitu, oh I support LGBT because my religion, my faith said that human beings should exist equally in terms of as the created beings by God. Jadi kalau teman-teman udah bisa bilang gitu, it's okay. Kalau belum bisa bilang, ya nggak apa-apa. No respond at all, it's okay. Menurutku, mudah-mudahan membantu Kamila. Dan kadang-kadang itu menjadi sebuah perdebatan dalam diriku juga. Gimana ya kalau orang tanya posisiku tentang LGBTQ gitu. Kadang-kadang bertanya, tapi kadang-kadang I celebrate LGBTQ month too dengan baca-baca buku LGBT, terus cari tahu contohnya buku-buku Scott Kugel, jurnal dan lain sebagainya. Kita berhak untuk belajar dan learning dan unlearning.
Okay, thank you, Bu Indah. And I think just to add something, I taught this to my students weeks ago regarding the belief. Ya, teman-teman kalau misalkan mempercayai ingin atau mungkin ya mempercayai sesuatu, contohnya adalah terkait dengan LGBTQ. I hope that the belief should be based on the knowledge, should be based on what you read from paper, journals, and many more. Jadi kalau bisa, kepercayaan itu dasarnya adalah dari teman-teman apa yang sudah dipelajari, dari knowledge apa yang sudah dibaca, maybe from hundreds of books. Jadi jangan hanya sekedar, oh kayaknya ini benar deh, terus kemudian kalian ikuti. Jadi kalau misalkan dalam konsep beragama, saya sepakat sekali kalau misalkan yang harus diutamakan dan harus kita junjung itu adalah sikap kehati-hatian. Artinya adalah, oke, kalau menurut saya, sepengetahuan saya, di dalam Islam itu seperti ini. Nah, sikap kehati-hatian saya harusnya seperti ini. Kecuali kalau misalkan teman-teman nantinya sudah menemukan hal yang menurut kalian akan percaya itu dari berdasarkan books, journals, knowledge, atau maybe ulama, opinions, seperti itu. Jadi bukan hasil dari ikut-ikutan atau modern trend dan sebagainya. Or maybe kalau misalkan kalian takut akan dicap kuper atau cupu kalau kalian tidak mengikuti tren saat ini yang black ini ya seperti ya LGBTQ atau terkait dengan pro black man dan lain sebagainya.
Aku Kuper Mas Wildi, aku nggak ngerti BTS dan lain sebagainya, nggak ngerti, aku Kuper, and it's okay, aku tidak berusaha untuk fit into the society that likes BTS, Korean, K-pop, etc. because there are other things that I like to learn. Jadi teman-teman berhak untuk belajar apa yang teman-teman suka dan menentukan apa yang teman-teman mau cari tahu gitu. Jadi you don't have to be fit into the society.
Okay. Is there any questions dari teman-teman lain? Silakan kalau misalkan ada pertanyaan lanjutan yang ingin ditanyakan. Miss Nada, you want to say something? I think you have very spicy question to be mentioned, or not? Atau mungkin partisipan lain kalau ingin bertanya anything, it could be anything, something not related to Islam, it's fine too. It's totally fine.
Nggak harus pertanyaan, comment, reflection, sharing. We are open to any kind of discussion. Okay. Oke, ada pertanyaan Mas Boldi dari.
Okay, from Ayu Prihatin ya. Thanks for beautiful lecture. I ever heard that the Prophet married to Aisyah when she was before balik and just berkumpul atau menggauli her after she was balik. So I thought the marriage is held before balik. What do you think about it? So I think marriage under 18 possibly, and you covered this in your presentation.
Ya, jadi ada berbagai macam interpretasi, bahkan bukan interpretasi modern tentang umur berapa Sayyidah Aisyah menikah dengan Nabi Muhammad, tapi ini adalah classical jurist, orang-orang yang dahulu memfatwakan tentang sebuah masalah, mengeluarkan fikih dan menjadikannya sebuah syariah. Itu mereka pun berbeda pendapat tentang umur berapa Sayyidah Aisyah menikah dengan Nabi Muhammad SAW. Jadi menurutku ketika kita berbicara pernikahan Nabi Muhammad dengan Aisyah, kita perlu melihat siapa juga konteksnya dalam keluarnya hadis tersebut, kemudian siapa yang mengatakan hadis tersebut, lalu bagaimana respon para classical jurist yang lain melihat hadis tersebut. Ada yang bilang usianya 9 tahun, ada yang bilang 13 tahun, ada yang bilang 16 tahun. So it differs very much. Jadi ketika kita bilangin ini ada salah satu Nabi Muhammad mengatakan adalah contoh child marriage, he practice child marriage, I totally disagree, because we need to look deep into the hadith, the fatwa that's being fiqh about child marriage. Jadi kita nggak bisa, saya nggak bisa bilang apakah itu child marriage atau enggak. Tapi pengertian saya dalam konteks pengetahuan saya di zaman sekarang, menurut saya pengertian child marriage-nya Nabi Muhammad dengan pengertian child marriage-nya kita di masa sekarang itu jauh berbeda. Ada hal-hal lain yang mempengaruhi pernikahan Nabi Muhammad dan Sayyidah Aisyah waktu itu, dan ada hal yang mempengaruhi pengertian saya terhadap child marriage di waktu sekarang. Jadi responnya tentu akan berbeda, dan saya tidak berhak untuk menjudge pernikahan Nabi Muhammad SAW dengan Sayyidah Aisyah, because it's beyond my knowledge and beyond my capacity as a believer. Jadi menurutku kita tidak perlu berdebat apakah itu child marriage atau tidak, ataukah Nabi Muhammad menggauli Sayyidah Aisyah ketika dia masih kecil atau setelah dia balik. Yang perlu kita ketahui bahwa child marriage itu untuk kita perempuan di masa sekarang, does it bring good or does it bring harm? Gitu. Ketika kita ingin menjustifikasi itu adalah child marriage, you can use that gitu. Itu bisa jadi justifikasi kalian kalau kalian mensupport child marriage. But as we all know, with our conscious, with our knowledge, no, we should not support child marriage. Menurutku gitu. Jadi semua tools ini tuh bisa digunakan untuk propose atau oppose. Jadi tergantung interpretasi kita. mudah-mudahan bisa menenangkan.
Oke.
Mas Willy punya tanggapan nggak?
No comment.
Yang belum nikah nggak ngomong dulu ya.
Yeah. Well, do you still want to divide us into breakout room or not?
Oh iya, sure. Boleh. How many participants do you have now? Udah 31 ya, 34. Okay.
Okay, dear participant, I think we can finish our session at 9. Ya, jadi kita masih ada beberapa waktu. Katanya Bu Indah tadi ada task or project that
Small project
we can discuss, but we will be divided into 6 breakout rooms. Jadi nih, Bu Indah.
Boleh, kita coba aja ya.
Oke, jadi kalau untuk yang mahasiswa semester 7, absen 1 sampai 5, silakan Anda masuk ke breakout room 1, kemudian 6 sampai 10 breakout room 2, kemudian 11 sampai 15 breakout room 3, dan seterusnya. Kalau untuk partisipan, teman-teman yang di luar kampus kita, silakan join, terserah mau masuk breakout room berapa. You are free to go. Oke, silakan. Breakout room sudah saya buka. Teman-teman bisa langsung join aja. Ya, tinggal klik breakout room, terus teman-teman bisa langsung join mau ke room berapa. Terus tasnya gimana? Mau disampaikan sekarang?
Oke, saya sampaikan dulu ya tasnya. It's a short mini research project. Jadi teman-teman dalam grup akan sebentar. Udah sharing ya aku ya? Sharing mana ya? Sebentar. Oke, yang ini kan. Ini tasknya adalah sebenarnya discussion, tapi dalam grup yang lebih kecil, teman-teman akan duduk bersama 5 dan 6 orang lainnya. Nah, tadi saya sudah membahas tentang topik child marriage dalam perspektifnya Musawa dan dalam local communities-nya seperti KUPI. Nah, berhubung sekarang ada zamannya sosial media, kita akan menggunakan sosial media sebagai salah satu sumber penelitian kecil kita ini. Teman-teman silahkan akses Instagram, Twitter, atau Facebook-nya Musawa. I only advise Musawa karena KUPI jarang sekali membuat infografis tentang sudut pandang mereka. Mereka lebih sering membagikan acara-acara yang akan mereka laksanakan dibandingkan hasilnya. Jadi mungkin untuk KUPI akan sedikit lebih sulit. Tapi untuk Musawa, they have plenty of post that they talk about recent topics. Ada terakhir sepertinya aku lihat ada tulisannya salah satu temanku, Hafsa Lodi. Dia ada penulis yang membahas tentang Syariah in Perspective of Taliban and how it doesn't work with us as Muslim women. Nah, itu ada tentang Muslim Afghanistan. Kemudian tolong pilih salah satu topik dari salah satu post mereka. Nah, kalau di Instagramnya Musawa, they post on 3 languages, in 2 languages, English and Arabic. Choose the English only. Postingan yang bahasa Inggris tentang salah satu topik. Terus teman-teman bantu saya untuk lihat apakah mereka menggunakan hybrid feminism dalam merespon masalah tersebut. Konteksnya apa, terus instrumen yang mereka gunakan untuk membackup argumen mereka terhadap posisi mereka dalam masalah tersebut apa, apakah mereka menggunakan human rights instrument, atau mereka menggunakan Quranic verses, atau mereka menggunakan hadis atau fatwa, atau reinterpretation of both Quranic verses or hadith, atau mereka menggunakan dua-duanya, ada secular instruments dan ada Islamic instruments. Dan nanti teman-teman bisa menyimpulkan apakah dalam topik tersebut, hanya dalam topik tersebut mereka menggunakan secular approach kah, Islamic approach kah, atau hybrid feminism approach. Nah, diskusinya mungkin cuma 15 menit kali ya Mas Willy ya? 10 atau 15?
10 aja maksimal.
10, oke, 10 menit aja. Nanti one of the member of the group can share their screen untuk kasih tahu kita post apa yang teman-teman pilih sambil jelasin poin-poin hasil discussion-nya ini. Oke.
Oke, setelah tahu tasknya, kemudian lanjut ke websitenya, kemudian masuk ke breakout room, dan silakan diskusikan dengan teman-teman yang ada di breakout room.
Nanti kita akan masuk juga ya, Mas Brody.
Oke, kita akan nanti follow up di breakout room. Terus after 10 minutes, one of the breakout room members, jadi nanti kita akan tunjuk teman-teman di salah satu room ya untuk maybe explain something, say something about apa yang teman-teman temukan nantinya. Oke, please go to your room.
Oke, untuk Instagramnya Musawah itu adalah @musawah, Musawah Movement, ya, @musawah movement. Dan di situ ada postingan tentang Taliban, ke bawah-bawah ada tentang economic rights, kemudian ada rights to divorce. Jadi ada berbagai macam topik yang teman-teman bisa pilih. Oke, selamat berdiskusi. Saya dan Mas Willy akan masuk ke breakout room.
Teman-teman yang belum masuk ke breakout room, silahkan lanjut masuk ke breakout room yang teman-teman minati ya. Any breakout room. Yang memungkinkan mungkin partisipannya masih sedikit, silahkan masuk. Kemudian silahkan discuss terkait dengan task atau tugasnya tadi.
Mas Willy, aku dimasukin ke breakout room yang manapun boleh?
Kamu masuk sendiri bisa nggak? Kayaknya bisa deh.
Gimana itu?
Klik aja breakout room. Klik aja
Oke.
breakout room.
Oke.
Karena co-host bisa masuk keluar.
Oke. Udah jam 9, Mas Wildi. Udah aku close breakout rooms-nya. Masih mute.
Udah semua, Pak? Belum kan? Oh, udah di breakout.
Udah aku close semua. Tinggal kita dengerin aja.
Beberapa room aja kali ya?
Beberapa aja, nggak harus semua. Kayaknya berdasarkan tadi aku join breakout room, banyak yang nyari soal education yang Taliban itu, yang postingan paling baru.
Oh, oke. Yang mana? Restricting women?
Iya, yang ini.
Oke.
Nanti kita dengar teman-teman melihatnya pakai approach.
Nanti kamu kontrol langsung aja ya, nggak apa-apa. Pilih room berapa yang suruh untuk present.
Oke. Oke, teman-teman udah kembali ke main room semua ya. Kita boleh mulai. Ada yang mau volunteer duluan untuk presentasi singkat hasil diskusi grupnya. Nanti boleh sharing screen sambil kasih lihat ke kita postingan apa yang dipilih. Ada yang mau volunteer? Nggak ada? Oke, kalau nggak ada, ditunjuk aja ya. Grup 6, mana tadi grup 6? Ya, aku tadi sempat masuk ke grup 6. Siapa aja tadi di grup 6?
Grup 6 itu ada Dinda Kusuma Dewi, Raisa Aurelia, Niyuraida Ceyuseng. Silahkan. Sudah saya capture, nanti biar gak hilang-hilangan. Oke, Dinda, Raisa Aurelia, Niyuraida, you want to say something?
Nggak ada. Kalau nggak ada, kita pindah ke breakout room-nya tadi. Yang ada Bening, Salsabila, karena tadi pas saya ke sana udah selesai katanya. Room berapa itu tadi, Mas Wildi? Room 5. Oke, silakan, Bening.
In English or in Indonesian?
Up to you.
Up to you.
Silakan, senyamannya aja.
Oke, jadi kami tadi pilih yang postingan tanggal 9 September. It's about how can financial matters upon divorce be reformed. So the context is the universal human rights laws like International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. They recognize that Muslim family laws must provide equality in financial and non-financial post-divorce maintenance rights. And above all, it is stated that in the Quran that spouses should either hold together on equitable terms or ma'ruf, as we know in the Quranic language, or separate with kindness or ihsan. So the changes to divorce laws can be made in international human rights and Islamic obligation. So according to us, we say that they use hybrid feminism approach in this case.
Thank you, Bening. Terima kasih. Terima kasih grup 6. Grup berapa tadi? Bening 5?
Iya, 5.
Oke, terima kasih grup 5 ya. Di sini dengan jelas kita bisa lihat kalau mereka pakai CEDAW General Recommendations, terus International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, sampai Universal Declaration of Human Rights, terus kemudian dalam religious arguments-nya mereka didasari oleh Quranic verses, kemudian ada classical fikih text, dan fatwa yang berdasarkan tentang mahar. Okay, so this topic about financial settlement upon divorce is discussed and argued based on the hybrid feminism approach. Terima kasih. Oke, satu grup lagi kali ya, Mas Wildi?
Iya, grup 1 kayaknya.
Silakan, grup 1.
Saya share screen ya, Kak.
Oke, oh iya, ini ada
mana?
Bu Rustam, nanti saya tampilkan ya discussion question-nya sebentar setelah presentasi anak-anak. Terima kasih. Yuk, silakan share screen.
Kok nggak bisa ya, Kak? Host disable participant screen sharing. Saya bukan co-host ya.
Siapa Lucy ya?
Iya, saya.
Okay, go ahead, Lucy.
Silakan, Lucy.
Sudah keluar, Sir?
Dah.
Jadi tadi grup 1 tuh ngambil dari postingan ini, Islam doesn't deny women education, so why does Taliban? Jadi apa namanya? Menurut kami di sini itu apa namanya background konteks yang mendasari postingan ini itu adalah kami tadi lihat di ada sebuah postingan dari BBC yang menyatakan bahwa Afghan universities itu akan memisahkan sekolah berdasarkan gender dan a new dress code will be introduced by the Taliban gitu. Dan di sini menurut kami instrumen yang digunakan musyawarah dalam statementnya, maaf Sir, sebentar. Ini itu adalah menggunakan hybrid search. Jadi apa namanya antara human rights.
Lucy, we lost you. Lucy, suaranya hilang.
Or maybe other members of group 1 can respond and continue.
Tadi Lucy udah sampai di poin menggunakan hybrid feminism, tinggal instrumen apa yang digunakan oleh musyawarah di sini. Nggak ada teman yang lain? Lucy-nya hilang. Ada yang bisa bantu Lucy?
Camilla, you want to continue?
Grup 1. Screen-nya nggak usah di-sharing, nggak apa-apa. Kita udah lihat postingannya tadi. Silakan Camilla, kalau mau bantu. Jadi Mbak Rustam, tadi pertanyaannya adalah ini. Sambil kita nunggu Lucy ya. Boleh di screen capture.
Sorry Sir, tadi saya teteringnya mati.
Iya, nggak apa-apa Lucy. Silakan.
Jadi tiba-tiba keluar sendiri.
Nggak apa-apa. Tinggal diselesaikan dikit lagi kan?
Iya.
Oke. Nggak usah screen sharing, nggak apa-apa Lucy. Tinggal.
Iya, jadi saya lanjutkan lagi, Kak. Iya, jadi intinya kami conclude kalau apa namanya topik yang apa namanya kalau di postingan itu konteks yang dilihat itu menggunakan hybrid feminism karena dilihat dari segi human rights dan segi agama gitu. Dari segi human rights semua orang itu punya hak untuk apa namanya dapat pendidikan yang sama regardless gendernya apa, dan dari Quran pun juga nggak pernah apa namanya melarang kita untuk membatasi kita untuk mendapatkan pendidikan gitu. Salah satu landasannya kita bisa lihat dari surat Quran surat Al-Alaq yang mengatakan bahwa Iqra bismi rabbikal ladzi khalaq, menyuruh kita untuk membaca gitu. Jadi ya gitu Kak.
Oke, terima kasih Lucy. Thank you so much. Iya, jadi ini artikel yang ditulis salah satu teman klub bukuku namanya Hafsa Lodi. Dia very much critiquing the Taliban government about the rights for education for women. Jadi ya, di dalam artikel tersebut dia bilang seperti itu. Oke, terima kasih grup 1. Kayaknya udah ya Mas Wildi. Our time is running out. Udah 9:11.
Okay then. So wait. So the end. I think this is the end of the meeting then.
Ya, semoga teman-teman mendapatkan sesuatu yang bisa direfleksikan nanti. Semoga menjadi sebuah ilmu baru, dan semoga teman-teman jadi bertambah wawasannya. Selain ada feminism yang biasanya dilihat sangat keras, kita juga punya Islamic feminism dan hybrid feminism. Dan teman-teman bisa baca dimanapun tentang hal-hal ini. Gitu. Terima kasih teman-teman.
Right, many thanks, Bu Indah, for joining us and giving us some enlightenment today. I really hope that I can meet you again later in different occasions. Yeah. Thank you, participants, for being super active. For those who are active, don't forget, we have another public lecture next week. My apologies for any mistakes. I'm Wildy Adila. I'll see you next week. And before leaving, possibly we can take a picture together. All right. So, wah ini susah ini. Kelihatan cuma berapa aja.
Berarti 2 kali fotonya, Mas Wildy.
Gimana itu? Oke, yang belum open kamera, yang sudah touch up, selesai touch up, mungkin boleh open kamera setelah touch
itu
up.
Itu ada yang pakai masker, itu good move itu.
Oke.
Kalau pakai lipstick, kita pakai masker aja.
Ya, kalau cowok pakai masker berarti nggak pakai lipstick. Oke. Hitungan 3 ya. 1, 2, 3. Oke, one more time. 1. Nah, ini gimana caranya biar banyak partisipannya? Oke, sip. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, then. Thank you very much for joining us, Bu Indah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oke, itulah akhir dari pertemuan kita. Semoga apa yang kita pelajari hari ini bisa bermanfaat untuk kita semua. We still have two other lectures next week and possibly the end of October. Still on Wednesday. Oke, nanti teman-teman kalau misalkan speakernya berkenan untuk open for public again, kita akan buka untuk umum dan semoga tetap bisa ya. And okay then, I'll see you next week insyaallah. Bye bye everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Bye.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Well, I think this is the end of the meeting. Many thanks to Bu Indah for joining us and giving us some enlightenment today. I really hope that I can meet you again later in different occasions. Thank you, participants, for being super active today. Don't forget, we have another public lecture next week. My apologies for any mistakes. I'm Willy Adila. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.